Sometimes life lets you down and you feel that you are done. You just want a morning run because the fun is all gone. But sometimes life makes you proud when you look far and wide, when you leave the pain behind and see the brighter side. TNC gives you inspiration. TNC reignites your passion. TNC starts your transformation. TNC helps you see the new you.
The new channel. The new channel.
The views, opinions, and insights expressed in the following show are those of the hosts, producers, guests, and viewers. They do not necessarily reflect the position of the channel. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the new channel, the new Christmas. This is Jesse Francis Rebustillo, your host to this wonderful program, HR Hotline. Welcome back to HR Hotline. You know what is wonderful with this live streaming show? It teaches you patience. We apologize that we started 30 minutes after our designated time. But you know, there is no program after me. So I asked our director, Marvin, that we can start at 12:30 and we can end past 1:30. Now, it took us some time to fix the facility, not only the Wi-Fi connection, but actually the appliance itself, the gadget itself of our guest. But it really taught me patience, that we have to wait. The wonders of technology, the positivity of the pandemic is actually that quality of patience. I can just imagine those students taking online classes now. But you know, here we are, and we have a wonderful topic for today, which I really chose a guest who can share his insights on this topic. A few days ago, before I was about to sleep, a feed came into my cell phone. There was a mass in Rome. It was Pope Francis, and he was actually saying the mass at the crypt of Saint Francis. And you know, I am Jesse Francis. And I actually live the way of life of Saint Francis. I have dogs, I have doves, I have a garden. The peace of mind of the Franciscan mindset. I am trying to perfect that. Now, going back to the Mass that I attended, there was a mention of an encyclical. So I got interested. I attended the Mass. Then, after that, I went into Google and researched. It's Fratelli tutti, brothers all, or if you want it to be correct, English, all brothers. I remember growing up in Legazpi, I watched a movie, Brother Sun, Sister Moon, and it's about the life of Saint Francis. And up to now, I can still vividly recall the scenes of that movie. If you're watching me now, the image at my right side, it's Saint Francis. I even have one. Allow me to stand up and get another one. I just get this as a gift for me, this pandemic from Arte Católica. So aside from that, I am a Marian devotee. I am, my favorite saint is Saint Francis. I'm named after it. Now going back to the encyclical. Encyclicals are letters coming from the Pope, the highest form of letter that should be given from from Rome. And it was way back centuries ago. If there is anything that is a concern, the Pope would issue. Just like say the the head of an organization coming up with a memo, setting up policies that we follow. Now with encyclicals, it's nice because it's actually our basis as HR persons, as owners and corporate heads. There should be a teaching that we have to follow. Of course, the basic teaching is do unto others what others would like you want others to do unto you. And we have to practice that. We have to practice that. But I found out, I heard this from attorney JBJ, attorney Jimenez. Uh, I forgot. Let me look into what I wrote last night. Rarum, I will ask our uh, Rerum Novarum. Rerum Novarum. It's actually an encyclical coming from Pope Leo during the Industrial Revolution because of the deteriorating working conditions. And would you believe our labor code is actually inspired by that encyclical. Now, the encyclical now of Fratelli Tutti, it says that it is a blueprint post-COVID. And it says that it is actually an antidote because we are on the brink. This is the negative side of the encyclical. The encyclical tells us that the pandemic taught us a realization that there are flaws in how we deal with each other. I'll stop on this. Let us now introduce our guest. Our guest is a fellow Bicolano. He was born in Malaur but grew up in Pulangi, Albay. I have deep respect to him. He is a very deep person because he used to be a rector of and professor in seminaries. He is a bishop and is actually right now the chairperson of the youth office of the laity and family of the Federation of ASEAN Bishop Conference and the chairperson of the CBCP Episcopal Commission on Prison and Pastoral Care. And I just recently heard him, and he has nice insights and strong words in one of those webinars that I attended, wherein he was the guest. He's a friend of the family. I was asking my sister to watch us, but she just informed me that there is a brownout in Legazpi. She's actually our pastor and our counselor. Every time that we have problems in the family, we call him. And every time that I am in Bicol, I make it a point just to sing for a short while. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome the Diocese of Legazpi's Bishop, Bishop Joel Baylon. But I will call him Bishop Bong. Hello po, hello po. I know you were a little bit stressed earlier.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much, Jesse, and greetings to all your the audience watching us live stream. And yes, I do apologize because I am the one to blame
Oh,
for
no, no, no.
this
It's okay.
great
It's
delay.
okay. You know what is wonderful, Bishop? Because it's a live stream. This is a recorded. Later on, this will be shared and shared.
Yes.
I have a niche of around 1,000 people watching us. Usually, these are corporate people and HR. I am just curious.
Okay.
You are seated, and there is a mural at your back. What is that mural at
Oh.
your back?
Oh. Okay. It is it is actually an artwork done by someone from an artist from the town of Malilipot, Albay. It is the
Wow,
image of Our Lady of Salvation, and it's made of abaca, lubid.
I
It is made of
see.
abaca, and it's Our Lady of Salvation, the patroness of the Diocese of Legazpi. It is a beautiful artwork. Yes, it is there. You have the image of our Blessed Mother holding the child Jesus in her left arm, actually, and then this somebody who is holding. She is holding also and saving him or this particular person's soul from the clutches of the devil. Actually, there's an image of the of Satan at the foot of the image, um, symbolizing the possibility of hell as a sentence for the soul who has failed the what do you call this, the demands and plans of God in his or
You,
her life.
you know, Bishop, I am a modern devotee and I pray the rosary early in the morning and late at night. I always invoke Our Lady of Salvation. And there is a
Yes.
prayer. Here, there is a biblical prayer that when we have typhoons, when we have earthquakes, Our Lady of Salvation, save us from the pandemic. That's the.
Yes, that's true. It has always been us our Marian devotion that has really seen us through all the difficulties, not only typhoons but the eruption of Mayon volcano and other calamities. Among them now, COVID-19, which we all have to face as a world.
Before we proceed, I would like to greet everybody who's watching us now. We have Chino and we have PP Obet watching us now, and there are people are coming in. So let us start because I know this. If you may, just we are just starting, but I am already telling you that if you can have a second look into this. I know you told me this is 90 pages encyclical. Am I right,
Yes,
Father?
Yes,
Am I
well,
right?
actually, it's all the way to 97, I think, or 98 pages. But this includes already the footnotes, the sources, and all that. But the text itself, in its present form, the way I received it from the Vatican is about 90 pages long. I'm sure it will be in a different format when it comes out as a book, which usually happens after this document is shared among the bishops. It is
Yeah, I
provided
know because
for access.
Bishop, I know that encyclicals actually are letters to the bishops. Uh,
No, well, if I may correct, not necessarily so. It's mainly for us because we are the teachers. We are the main ones responsible for the evangelization and the teachings and the dogmas that have to be shared to our people. But it is, especially during these recent times, all the encyclicals of our popes have been addressed to all men and women of goodwill, not only
of
Catholics. In fact,
goodwill.
there are like for example, this Laudato Si, the first encyclical that our Holy Father came up with, Pope Francis. It's a beautiful statement on our care for creation. And of course, he invites everybody, whether you're a Catholic or a Muslim or a Protestant or what have you, to be part in this journey and this responsibility that we have for our care for Mother Earth. That is Laudato Si. And now here is another wonderful encyclical from him, Fratelli tutti, which again invites us as somebody, if I may just quote some cardinal who said that if we are talking of if Laudato Si told us that everything is connected, here in Fratelli Tutti, it is telling us that everyone is connected. Meaning we have to
Everyone.
care for one another. We cannot be indifferent to one another, especially those who are on the peripheries, those who are disadvantaged, those who have no voice in society, etc., etc. We have to care for one another.
Okay,
And
Bishop, let me start with. I have some prepared questions from you. Let me start first with Saint Francis. What is the role of Saint Francis in this encyclical?
I am sure a lot of us know that by the mere fact that this present Pope chose Franciscus as his name, his papal name, which is very significant. This is the first time that a pope chooses that name. Already manifests that he has a very special, a deep devotion, personal devotion to this saint of nature, of poverty, who calls everybody his brother or sister, brother sun, sister moon, mother earth, etc. And so Pope Francis has a very deep connection with this saint. And he, like I said already, mentioned Laudato Si, that was it was a song, a hymn to the universe that was often attributed to Saint Francis, and he used the first words of that hymn, Laudato Si, praise to you, O Lord God of creation, as the title of his encyclical. And now we have Fratelli Tutti. It is also one of the messages that Saint Francis addressed to his brothers as he was sending them off to mission. And he said that I am sending you as brothers to everyone. You
Wow.
have to reach out to people. And he knew that he was going to send them not only to friendly areas, but to what do you call this? To territories that may not be so friendly because of the situation of politics during that time. But Saint Francis was very much aware that there was no need to fear if only we could reach out to people as brothers and sisters. And so, in fact, when he instructed them to go as brothers to everyone, he said, now your task is to listen, not to speak, not to talk, but to
Wow.
listen. And that is an important element of this encyclical, Fratelli Tutti, from Pope Francis too.
Okay, fast forward. Why is it that some are mentioning it as a, an encyclical wherein it was mentioned that we are on a brink, that we have, that the world now politics and the leaders are a bit, there is a lapse in solving the present problems.
Yes, I'm sure we all know that there is so much division in the world today. There are wars happening. Economies are not providing sufficient assistance, especially to the disadvantaged, the poor.
Right.
Um, there are countries that are very affluent and living well, while there are also suffering terrible misery, famine, and all that hunger, unemployment, and all that. So the Holy Father was very much aware that it's not only a matter of big gap economic division, but also political turmoil that might lead to an unwanted war, a war that will really destroy, if at least not at least devastate the whole world. And so one of his cardinals, Cardinal since Cerny, one of his great big advisors at the Vatican, mentioned this precisely, like you mentioned, that he was the one who said that it seems that the Holy Father issued this encyclical precisely because we are on the brink, saying that like it was um, with the first two world wars, there was a lot of devastation and misery, deaths of millions of people, and we are at the brink of something like this if we do not address the problems that we have as a world, and if we do not address this together. So this is what he is trying to tell us in this, what do you call this, in this particular encyclical. And it is very interesting because while he was already preparing this encyclical even before the pandemic struck, he said, in fact, in this encyclical that the COVID-19 made this encyclical even more, what do you call this, necessary in our
Yeah.
time, because we realize that we cannot solve our problems, our world problems, even our local problems on our own alone. We need one another. And that is why
Okay.
he calls us to be brothers to one another, brothers and sisters, of course, to everyone. Let me just comment on this because there are some, or there were some. I hope this issue would fade already. That the Holy Father did not mean to refer this only to men, to the male sector of the church, because he used the word fratelli. In fact, one scholar also said that this is the tradition of the church. We do not modify the original text where where a pope bases the first words of
Right.
the encyclical, which is usually the title, where we get the title. The first two words of the encyclical, or three words, depending on whether it is a necessary phrase, then we, what do you call this? The Pope does not change. It doesn't modify any word, change it for something that is more local or more contemporary. He
Right.
sticks to the original word or text as it is. So it is
That
not
is,
about only just men. It is for all men and women.
of course, it will be funny, Bishop. It will be brotherhood and sisterhood of men. Brotherhood is
Yes.
okay. It's okay. So before we have our first break, anyway, and I know this will be long. Can you now tell us the positivity? What are the key points in this encyclical? What are the key points that HR people, corporate people will be able to gain and will be it will be an inspiration for them? What are the key points, Bishop Bong?
Well, the document, I must say, is very rich, and I have practically just browsed through the document just to be able to accommodate ourselves in this just parang superficial reading, and so I
Yeah, I know,
cannot
because it's
claim.
only a few. It's just a week. It's just a week that it is
Oh
out.
yeah,
Yes, so
we
this is
we need
actually a scoop. Bishop,
yes.
this is a scoop. We will be on YouTube, and you will be a scoop.
we will we need a lot of reflection on this encyclical. It's a beautiful what do you call this document from the Holy Father. but we need to really reflect on this. But anyway, the first thing that that what do you call this, I was made aware of is the way he started with the first chapter. He calls what do you call this? Although this we have a closed world, a world that is close to the cries of the poor, a world that is divided and therefore is enclosing. People are becoming to be, too concerned with themselves rather than opening up for people. So this is something that we have realized with the pandemic, that all of a sudden we were so consumed with ourselves. We thought we could solve everything. We thought that we were self endowed, and we were able to really do the things that we wanted. But with this pandemic, with COVID-19, we realized that we are at the mercy of many things, and we are not God. And so the Holy Father uses that as a point of reference, this divisiveness, this aloneness. In fact, he said that we have become, with globalization, for example, we have become so near, we have become neighbors. In fact, travel is so easy, transportation, communication. We could just talk like now, we're several hundred miles away from each other, but we are talking like as if we are just beside each other. There's so much ease now and facility in communication, in doing things. But at the same time, the sad fact is, many people are even more alone. Not only among the poor, as a matter of fact, it is the poor who often cling to each other so much, maybe because they need each other. But those in affluent countries, in the first world, as we call as many countries that are well developed, there is so much pain and loneliness and isolation there. And so the Holy Father invites us to look at this and to teach us what it means to care. And so he invites us to destroy the culture of walls, as he called them, a culture of walls. We are building walls around ourselves and against or away from each other rather than building bridges. So he calls us to build a culture of encounter, to reach out to one another. And he uses a beautiful parable in the gospel, which is very familiar to many of us, and that is the parable of the Good Samaritan. And he, with his reflection, makes this parable, which, like I said, is already familiar to us, as a point for deeper reflection on how we relate with one another. He invites us, what character are you? Are you the robber? Are you the priest, the Levite? Are you the Samaritan? Are you the person who got what do you call this, robbed and hurt by these robbers? And he said, we are all these, and we have to admit we need one another. He also is inviting us to recognize that human dignity should be at the center of everything that we are doing. We cannot simply disregard people. And a lady theologian remarked that it is the power of naming, she said. By this, I think she means that, we are using many politically correct words now. I was just browsing through some of these politically correct names, and I was surprised that there are, what do you call this? Like, for example, the word, we don't use unemployed now. You say economically inactive. Housewife is called a domestic engineer. Slum area is an economically deprived area, and slum dwellers, as we now call them, we don't call them squatters anymore. We call them informal settlers. These are politically correct terms. Now we're using names, but despite all this effort to be nice about the terms that we are using, we are simply shooing away one another from each other. Migrants, and that they what do you call this? They consume a whole proportion of this encyclical, because the Holy Father is saying, look at the migrants. These are people, these are our brothers. And how do we treat them now? We don't even want to look at them. We don't even want to name them. So things like this. So he says that the human dignity should be at the center of everything that we do, whether it is politics or economics for that matter. We have to recognize that each and every person has a dignity that we cannot turn away from.
Ah,
They have the
yes.
right to work, they have the right to the voice, they have the right to everything, to life and shelter, etc., which are already basic, understood even before, but we have forgotten them, apparently so.
So what I learned from you, Father, we are actually trying to teach that to the HR people now. That of silos, you have to break walls. We're even using a deeper English term, break your silos. And that's it. That
Yes,
is, we are all brothers. And that one of using actually new gobbledygook and technical terms that actually it's making us distant. That of that buzz now, social distancing. I'm a bit. It was actually corrected now. It should be physical distancing because social distancing actually distancing from one social strata or level to another. You're very correct, Father. So also how you treat people. Yeah, that one of you're so affluent, and we're doing that. Say, companies trying to give ayuda, but I would like to see, Marvin, I would like to see Bishop Bong. Di ba,
yes.
di ba, Bishop Bong? A lot of big companies who can afford it are giving ayuda, but how is it being done? Maybe
There is,
it's actually creating
as a matter
division.
of fact, it's very significant. It's significant to acknowledge that there is what we now call corporate social responsibility. Many companies are very much aware of that they have a responsibility for people, the poor, those who are needy, and all that, so, which is very good. But these are superficial efforts. The Holy Father is inviting us not so much as to disregard and forget that these are good things. He is inviting us to go to the very core, to look at the brother in the eyes. And that is why the image of the Good Samaritan is a wonderful image for us. He did not just, give, as we often do. Okay, bigyan kita ng, sige, ano mo na yan, tulong ko sa iyo yan, 100 ha, bala bumili ka ng ano dyan, damit, magpagamot ka dun sa ano, iyan na. And then, we forget about him. Kasi it's a very convenient way of being good, of being neighbor. The Holy Father makes us feel uncomfortable with that. He said,
Right,
hindi lang
right,
sufficient na
right.
tumulong ka, that you look at this one with compassion. You have to empathize with the person. You have to suffer with the person. And that is
Right,
exactly what the Good Samaritan did. He put himself
right.
at risk because when he took upon himself the responsibility of the one who was injured, he he made himself vulnerable to robbers also. Kasi dalawa ng
Yes,
burden niya, baka sugurin pa siya ng mga kung sino ba mga tulisan at
right.
mangungulimbat yan. Secondly, he put himself at risk with the criticism of those who were, at sinabi siya, Samaritan siya eh. He was a foreigner. He was an alien. And he put himself at risk at being criticized by even the innkeeper. Sabi, but the beautiful thing is even the innkeeper became an instrument to take care of
Yes.
people. So this beautiful parable tells us that every one of us has a role, but not every one of us does a beautiful and correct role. We could
That,
be the
that
Levite.
reminds
We
that
could be the
reminds me
priest.
that reminds me, Bishop, of companies who are giving now, say, ayuda and all the face masks and everything. But it's just these are just photo ops. And they are not
Mhm.
really. And PMAP is actually doing that because PMAP has a program of malasakit, pagkikipagkapwa, telling us actually to go deeper in what we do. And I think that
Yeah.
is well, that is what the encyclical is doing. That it should not be. I like that. It should not be superficial. That as if you are taking care of somebody, but you don't really mean it. Am I right,
Yeah.
Bishop?
Yes,
Am I
yes. In fact, sabi pa nga pa ni Pope Francis, when the Good Samaritan reached out, he was not looking for accolade, he was not looking for praise. So di ba, pag gagawa tayo, una, photo op, yun, sabi mo nga, paganda taga, okay, papogi points natin dito kasi ito, ay project ito ni Senator ganito, ni Congressman ganito. The projects are supposed to be an opportunity for them to be known as doing good. Sabi nga ng iba, bakit kailangan sabihin mo yan na ano trabaho, pera naman ng taong bayan yan, and all that. When we do this corporate social responsibility, where do we really, uh, what do you call this, want to be in this regard? Is it just about feeling good that we are doing something for the poor? Like I said earlier, I am not trying to put down these generous and good efforts on the part of many corporations today. It is a very wonderful gesture on the part of these companies that have the capacity to share whatever they may have, and the benefits, the income, the profits that they are getting, to share, especially with the poor. But the Holy Father invites us to go beyond that. And that is the
Yes.
difficult part of this encyclical. He makes
Yes.
us vulnerable. For me, that's the key word here. This encyclical invites us to be vulnerable, because that is the only way to become a brother or sister to people. You become vulnerable in your encounter to reach out. Pwede kang i-refuse, pwede kang i-reject, pwede kang murahin, pwede kang maksaktan. As a matter of fact, so these are the vulnerabilities that come with being a brother or sister to people. But the Holy Father says, do the same.
Okay.
Do it as well.
Oh, nice conversation. We'll have more. So let's have first Marvin, can you have the first break? Wonderful ang aking conversation with Bishop Bong of the Diocese of Legazpi. Can we have the first break, Marvin? Welcome back to HR Hotline. We're having a very insightful conversation with the Bishop of Legazpi, Bishop Joel Baylon. But before we continue, can we have the slides wherein the poster wherein I have to present the various shows of TNC? We have the big picture. Lloyd Luna is the host. Of course, you will be my date from Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Watch the family business on Saturdays. The fourth project aired from the US of A. Then we have Usapang Beauty, COVID Stories. There is an original show here at the TNC. U-Turn, inspiring stories, how they turn their lives. Then if you are planning to buy real estate, what's the home buyer with Dante Salamat, fun with the puppet stories, and then if you are interested in exchanges, barters, and everything, watch the marketplace and YOLO. You have to know the law with fun, and then money matters. Then we have the talk on Mondays. After shift, it is a chillaxing show after work. Then we have Win Within, Danny, uh, Foreign Affairs, Helpline, and new shows Women at Work, Awesome Day, Cyber, NXT, Tech Q, Town Hall, and One Day. So we invite you to be with the TNC, your new normal option. Back to Father to Bishop. Yes, can we have Bishop Bong because we have lots of so you mentioned, Father, there is a mention in the encyclical about dialogue. Can you uh, tell us, Bishop, because I know you have browsed over the 90 plus pages of the encyclical. What is this dialogue that leads us to reconciliation and collaboration, which is actually needed in our corporate world?
Yeah, well, as the word itself already says that it is what do you call this? It is a meeting of two minds. Daya
Yes.
is about, and it cannot. In other words, what the Holy Father is what do you call this? Inviting us to see here is that oftentimes with the kind of world that we now have, it is always those who have more against those who have less, those who have more knowledge against those who are ignorant, those who are powerful and those who are powerless. And oftentimes in the dynamic of these relationships, which is the very context of this culture of encounter, the Holy Father said, this human relationship, dialogue is very essential. Otherwise, it's just a one-way street. When the powerful dictates on the life of the miserable, those who have not, don't have the power, the subjugated class and all that, those who have the money, those who are rich, they dictate on who is going to live and who is not going to live. There are those who decide on the lives of the migrants, the squatters, those who are the informal settlers, to use a politically correct word. That, so, in other words, who listens to the voice of the masses? Who listens to the anguish and cries of those in the peripheries? Practically none in this kind of world that we now have. And so the Holy Father is inviting us to listen to what these people, the poor, the sick, the elderly, who oftentimes now are relegated to homes, forgotten, totally forgotten. Uh, Have we heard their cries, their anguish? Have we heard their dreams? They also have dreams even in their advanced age. These are the things that the Holy Father is inviting us. So this is the first thing in dialogue, to reach out to, as Saint Francis invited told his friars, listen. You are there to listen, not so much to speak. And dialogue, part of dialogue definitely is listening, not just talking and speaking. And do we allow ourselves to listen, especially to the voices of the small, of the disadvantaged, of the poor, even the rebel and the outcast, the criminals, and those whom we regard as the dregs of society, those who do wrong? And it is quite significant, if I may already insert this, that the Holy Father talks of these two tools that we have been using, both tools as nations, and this is war, even what the church had for many years acknowledged as the just war, in meaning that you can be justified in going to war if you have to defend yourself and something like that. And the death penalty against individuals. War is against nations, the death penalty is against individuals. And the Holy Father says we cannot allow this to continue to happen, even a just war. It is very difficult in this present age to justify war for the consequences that it brings, The United Nations, he mentions the United Nations. It is there, an organization of peoples, of nations, where we can talk, where we can discuss. Unfortunately,
Okay.
it is still a situation when the dialogue is not very real, and even more so with death penalty. When we regard criminals who have done heinous crimes and all that as deserving death, because that is the easy way to discipline themselves, which is in fact another case in point for our Philippine society and the government. There is an effort to reimpose the death penalty. But the Holy Father says this is inadmissible because today in this kind of society that we have, there are many ways to reform people. There are many ways to prevent the harm done by somebody to be repeated in an organized society. So the death penalty ceases to be relevant, inadmissible. That's how we describe the death penalty. And so even before this, with this encyclical, as you might have known, Jesse, the Holy Father already instructed that a portion of the catechism for the Catholic Church, there is a portion there on the death penalty. He had that already deleted, the portion rather in which the death penalty is allowed in certain cases. He had that deleted. He now says, and he wants this to be clear, for him, for the church, the death penalty is inadmissible. And even just war, without necessarily saying that this is intrinsically evil, because that would mean that if, the wars that the church had been through before, not saying that those were justified, maybe they were, and who are we to judge because they had happened many years ago, the Crusades, among others, and all these kinds of wars, they have been justified. Now, do we say that the Lord allowed that intrinsic evil should happen because there was just war before? No, the Holy Father is simply saying we have gone beyond all this. There are new ways of looking at things. There are new ways of addressing conflicts and difficulties. And one of them is dialogue.
Right. When listening to you, Bishop Bong, I was trying to put it in the context of organizations. This is the time that there are a lot of retrenchment. So, where is the heart of the people managing organizations? And I think, of course, there can be ways wherein, if it is really not enough, that we really have to let go of people, that what there should be dialogue. There are ways wherein you can
Yeah.
help people. Say that one of the malasakit wherein, yes, you're letting go of people, but you have to help them look for other jobs. Am I right, Bishop Bong? If you
Yes,
put us
definitely.
in the
Oh,
micro in that sense.
yes, yes, we understand that everybody is affected with this pandemic. Everybody is suffering, whether you're a big business or a small time, sari-sari store owner. Everybody, and but even more so are those poor, those who are isang kayod isang tuka. You know, they already have hardly anything to fend for their needs, for the education of their children, a bright future for their loved ones, and all that security for themselves. Even more so now with this COVID pandemic, are they at the most vulnerable situation? And it is important for us to listen to what they have to say, even though they do not have right to what we own, or maybe they do. And that is the challenge of the Holy Father, to be able to make ourselves vulnerable again in terms of what we own. He said that, going back to Laudato Si, he said, the Lord God gave this to us to be shared. It is not for the few to own and depriving the rest of what little or meager portion that they can share among themselves, which is exactly the sad reality now. Not only about nations having a small percentage of those very rich and very powerful owning a big portion of the economy of the land and letting the little portion be shared by hundreds and millions of the rest. In corporate society, it's also the same. And the Holy Father is inviting us to learn to share, learn to reach out, and to recognize in the other somebody who has the right to be recognized, to be heard, and who has the right to life, and to choose a work that will make him dignified and that will give him a reason to hope for a bright future.
Right, right. You know, we have Boots Guerrero, who is actually with Palscon, watching as father, bishop, and then he mentioned that yes, we have to talk to people who are going to be retrenched. We have here Wan Lu watching us from Antipolo, Carmine, Nes. Thank you for watching us. But you know, going back, Bishop. I had a guest just last time, just last Tuesday, and then this is actually Muog in Baguio, talking about that corrective. You mentioned earlier that war, death penalty. So I'm now looking at the context of organizations wherein somebody has an infraction, and the traditional way is you dismiss the
Terminate.
person, you terminate the
Yeah.
employment of the person.
Mm.
But you know, with Muog, they have this best practice wherein it is corrective. It is what
Okay.
the Holy Father is telling us, that is the right way to do now in the new normal, that it has more to be a corrective way rather than a putting a penalty to that person
Mm.
who has a deviant behavior. Tell us
Yeah.
your insight, Bishop.
And well, I'm now coming from a personal context. I am like you mentioned, I'm the chair of the prison pastoral
Yes,
care of
yes,
the
yes.
CBCP this time, and of course we are trying to work hard so that the death penalty will not be imposed. We have very clear reasons why we are not in agreement with that, because first of all, it does not solve the problem. No matter how much we say that it is going to be a deterrent, no data, no survey has proven this. As a matter of fact, there were times when, despite the presence of the death penalty, crime rate has increased, in fact. Okay, so anyway, that is the first one. But above all, first of all, the most important thing is the dignity of the human person. No
Right,
matter
right.
how big, no matter how big or bad you have become, the faults, the wrong that you have done, it does not deprive you, it does not take away from you your basic original dignity as the son or daughter of God. You remain to be that person. In other words, even in using the word brother or sister here in the, what do you call this, in this encyclical, when you address a person brother or sister, you could fight forever, you may disregard that person forever until the rest of your life, but he remains to be your brother and or sister. That does not take away from them that character of your relationship or that human relationship. And because of that, the death penalty cannot be a source of a solution to simply terminate the life of somebody because he has done wrong. That is why, in the context of the justice, as far as the church is concerned, justice must be restorative, not punitive. And the death
Right.
penalty is nothing but a punishment. Paparusahan kita. It goes back to the original, the traditional lex talionis, an eye for an eye, at tooth for a tooth. Buhay ang inutang mo, buhay ang babayad mo. Ganon. Pero sabi ng Panginoon, wala, I do not wish the sinner to die. Ipinagkaloob niya precisely ang kanyang anak para yakapin ang lahat ng masama sa atin at ipako sa krus. Doon niya ito ipinako para we could be once again the dignified daughters and sons of our Father. And that makes us see the value of giving the criminal another chance. For God Himself is a God of many second chances. Kaya hindi po pwede yung dahil gumawa ka ng napakalayo. Ang argument kasi, matindi yung ginawa niyang ano, ang kasalanan, heinous talaga yan, wala nang pagbabago yan, talagang talamak na ang pagkakriminal niyan, halang ang kaluluwa niyan, kahit sinong lapitan mo, ano, ang tingin sa kanya ay masama. Pero, why did God create him or her in the first place? There must be something good in him or her, and only God sees that. And only God has the right to terminate life because sa Kanya naman galing ang buhay nito at hindi tayo. And because of that, it is precisely because of that, that when we reach out to people, even those whom we deserve to be, whom we feel or think and are undeserving of our care or of our compassion, we must go beyond what we feel.
Right.
We
Right.
like the attitude and mindset of Jesus Christ. He came to call
Right.
sinners, not the just, the righteous, and he took upon himself the sin of us all.
Thank you, Bishop Bong, for sharing that to us, because that is a chapter in the Encyclical, War and
Yes,
Death
yes,
Penalty.
and the
War and
penalty,
Death
right?
Penalty. You know, when I was reading at the time, I was already sleepy, and thank you for telling us that, because I cannot really. There are some parts of the Encyclical it's so difficult to understand, and you
Yes,
just nailed it. You nailed it. It's so clear. It is so clear. But I also, I was speed reading. There was also a mention about divisiveness and hatred in the social media. Nabasa mo yun. Nabasa mo yun, Bishop Bong. Yeah. Can you
I,
tell us about that? Can you tell
I
us
will.
about that?
Alam naman natin that the social media now is being used as a powerful tool to reach out, to communicate. Social media allows us to be close to one another, to be able to see to it that our loved ones who are far away continue to be very much close to us. So kaya malaking bagay talaga ang social media. But then at the same time, it has also been used as a tool to influence people, even to manipulate the truth. Even to manipulate the truth. Alam natin yan, fake news. Mga trolls using social media to create a wrong image of reality, which is actually not reality, kung ano nga yun, kung false image yun. So, but then, ang social media ito, can be used to destroy people as a matter of fact. And we have been using this in fact. And ang sakit ng media is you can be anonymous. You can use any name. You can be anybody from Superman to whatever. You can be anyone. And therefore you can say anything that you want without being held responsible. Except unless you still believe in what the Holy Father is calling us to, conscience. Kung wala kang konsyensya, gagawin mo ang ano mong gusto mo, wala kang pakialam kung sino nasasaktan mo, kung sinong sisira, kung kaninong buhay ang sisirain mo. You don't care. For as long as you want to be a purveyor of falsehood, of fake news and all that. And the thing is, ito nga, half-truths are more devastating than real falsehoods. Alam naman natin siguro yan. Because half-truths have a portion of the truth in them. And this can be used by those people who want to, to present an agenda or a reality according to their wishes and whims. Pero malayong-malayo sa tunay na katotohanan. Yung katotohanan which Jesus said, sets us free. The truth will set you free. But there are many truths now that do not set us free. It only creates resentment, division, misunderstanding, suspicion, and even hatred for one another. Alam natin, I don't have to articulate so much on this because this is part of our world today. Whether it is in the corporate world, political world, even our relationship, even in the church. I must admit that it is there. Social media is a very powerful tool. And right now, I must say that the devil is using it to his great advantage.
Yes. Yes, wonderful insights coming from Bishop Bong. Let's have the second break, and after that, I'll ask you a couple of questions, and we'll have the parting message. Time runs so fast. Marvin, can we have the second break, please? we are now in the last portion of the job fair. So because I would like to still have time with Bishop Bong, can we have it now, Marvin? The job fair that we have. Uh, yes, we are still hiring in Will Design and Associates, the sponsor of this episode. You can send your resumes at recruitment at wdaincorporated.com.ph. Puzzlebags also will still looking for staff, and you can send your application to career at puzzlebags-inc.com. If you are in Laguna, you can send your resumes to algonplace at gmail.com. I'm also endorsing events, and these are actually the PMAP conference come October 21, 22, and 23, and the PSTD, that's the Philippine Society for Talent and Development National Convention on November 16, 17, and 18. And of course, join us in our POPs conference, the total online presence on October 15 and 16. So let's go back. Father Bong, before we have our parting messages, Bishop Bong, yes, thank you very much. It was really wonderful having your insights. At this time, can we have you say after 2 weeks? And I think this time it will be more. The facility will be more friendly to us, because I would like to have a series of discussions on ethics. On ethics, I would like to have to ask, say insights from a bishop, from the military, from a corporate on ethics. Same topic,
Yeah.
but different. Can I already reserve you for an episode?
Well, much as I would be very happy and I feel honored to be part of this program, this ongoing effort to reach out to people through this live streaming program, I would like also to say that maybe another voice from the church leadership would enrich the sharing more than, if I come back again and I have my, little
Bishop,
10
with
cents.
the live stream, it's easier if you are conversing with somebody you know. And I know you
I
so
understand.
well. I know you so
Well,
well. How we enjoy the dessert in Pinari with mommy. And you know,
mahalatang malakas tayong kumain.
I know you come to the house not actually to partake the dinner, but to take the dessert from my sister. I know that. I know that.
Sweet
Uh,
tooth.
anyway, Bishop Bong, I would like to ask you, before your parting message, there is a mention of the value of kindness. The value of kindness. I was not able to grasp the entirety of what the Holy Father is telling us. What is this value? That is the culture of encounter. That is the
Yes,
culture of encounter. Yes. That,
precisely. It is based on this culture of encountering. Did you ever saying something?
can you share with us the culture of encounter and the value of kindness, so that those who are listening to us, especially those in the HR, can appreciate something from the encyclical.
Yeah. Well, first of all, like I mentioned this already earlier, the context of this culture of encounter is human relationships. It is us. Um, Kaya nga, I think it's very important that the Holy Father titled this encyclical as Fratelli tutti, or brothers all. That we're all brothers here. We're all sisters and brothers here. So there's no denying that. Now, but if we are brothers, we have to relate to each other. We cannot just disregard each other, as when we disregard the poor because they happen to be poor and dirty at pasaway, and they create a lot of problems. We cannot simply disregard people and don't talk to them simply because they have committed wrongs. They have done us wrong. That they are perceived to be, rumor mongers or criminals, etc. We cannot simply disregard anybody and do not establish relationships with them simply because they are old, simply because they have nothing to say, because they are ignorant, simply because they are uneducated and all that. We still have to continue to reach out to one another, to listen to each other. And in this situation of COVID-19, the Holy Father is inviting us to recognize that we have become indeed strangers to one another. We're just beginning to understand once again our need for people. We cannot solve this problem on our own, like we already started at the very start. And there is this term that you are using, whether in the corporate world or businesses, even among what do you call this environmentalists. Think global, act local. Think global. When we think of the world, but do something there within your means, with whatever you can do. And this is what the Holy Father is telling us. We can also, proclaim all the nice things we want to say about people. But if in our personal, direct, daily relationships with them, we are just as selfish, indifferent, and hurting, then no matter what we say, this will be useless. We will have nothing to say at all. So we have to reach out. We have to encounter, like the Good Samaritan did to that man. He wasn't a friend. He wasn't even a fellow Samaritan. It was not mentioned, of course, whether he was a Jew or a Samaritan. But the point is, he was a stranger to the Samaritan. He did not know his name. And these are realities that we face in our world today. But the Holy Father is inviting us to encounter people in the vulnerability of our humanity. And in that vulnerability, there is so much fear because of rejection, because of past hurts that we have experienced from people. So we can be very careful with what we say, with what we do, with what we give, with what we risk, especially our lives. But when we use this encounter in that effort, in that kindness that he's talking about, the gift of kindness, then the relationship becomes friendly. That social friendship that the Holy Father also talks about, it's a social friendship. That it is not a friendship of the mind that ako kaibigan, ako may friend ako. We are friends on Facebook and all that. Oh, we have hundreds of friends in Facebook. But how much of that friendship is real? How much of that friendship is vulnerable to the point that I am willing to be hurt because of that friendship? Like that Good Samaritan. And for me, this is what the Holy Father is saying. We oftentimes approach each other always with, weapons, with arms, always defending ourselves against the other. There is no kindness there. But when we do away with all this, when we open our arms, recognize the other for the dignity and the worth that they have, because they are just like us, they deserve this world as much as we do, then kindness begins to prosper. Then kindness begins to have meaning. Kindness is our tool to destroy the weapons of war. How can you be hurting? How can you be belligerent towards a person who is kind? Di ba? Mahirap kang makiaway sa isang taong napakabait, maunawain, mababa ang loob. And these are characteristics of a person who is kind. And that is what the Holy Father is asking us in this relationship of encounter. Kindness must be very much a part of it.
Wow.
He uses, if I may just add one thing more. Sabi niya kasi dito, we are neighbors without borders. He used that in several times in the Encyclical. Neighbors, even nations, we are without borders. Sabi na, alisin na natin yung borders na yan. Kaya nga, he was very particular about migration. Sabi niya, these people, they deserve another chance at life. Why are they there? Bakit sila nagmamigrate? They're being persecuted in their home countries. They have no hope there. Kasi grabe ang suffering doon, ang economic depression and all that. They are trying to look for a better life. And then you put walls against them. Ano yung itong mga migrants yung sinasabi niya? Kaya he wants us to understand that we are neighbors without borders. We are coming without defenses. That makes us vulnerable. We come as nations without borders. We welcome one another. And that makes nations vulnerable. Yung mga nagpo-protect ng kanilang mga yaman, ng what they think is theirs. Sabi ni Holy Father, hindi yan sa inyo. Sa atin yan.
Yep. Yes. Wow. I am learning a lot from you, Bishop Bong. But time runs so fast. Can we have your parting message? And of course, a blessing to all those who are listening to us. We have around 30, 40 plus live audience now. So, can we have your parting message, Bishop Bong? And then, of course, a
Well,
blessing for you and for all.
yeah. To end this sharing, I would just like to quote the Holy Father in a portion of his what do you call this encyclical there, like excuse me, that he dreams of an open world that makes room for everyone, including the most vulnerable, and shows respect for different cultures. So this covers a lot of area, from the individual relationships that we have for one another to the relationships of nations or corporate world, in the bigger context of human relationship. But he says it has to be an open world, not a closed world where we build walls, where we establish a culture of walls, but bridges that connect us to one another, because we are all connected here. And we must begin with one another, with the one closest to us, our wife, our children, our parents, our friends. Here, let us begin here. Let us begin where we can. And this makes us instruments of this new world that the Holy Father is inviting us to. A world where human relationships is based on respect, on an encounter of hearts, not just of minds, a relationship that respects people, whether they are poor or rich, educated or unschooled. It is a world where the kingdom is present, a kingdom of justice, truth, and love. And so, yes, thank you very much, Jesse, for giving me this opportunity to be with you and
Thank
to
you,
share
just marvelous.
some insights. May the Lord continue to bless us. And I invite, by the way, our audience, our friends, to find time to read. It's a very easy reading. Well, of course, there are certain terms and when that we need to reflect on more content, but it's easy reading actually. It's just rather long, but I'm sure we can get a lot of insights and profit so much from the words of Pope Francis. And the Lord bless us all and keep us safe, especially from this pandemic. May He make us rejoice in the blessings that He grants us every single day, us and our loved ones. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen. Amen. Just marvelous
Salamat
po.
po.
Just as marvelous
Mabalos man
po,
po. Salamat po.
Bishop Bong. So there goes, ladies and gentlemen, the encyclical of Pope Francis, Fratelli, tutti. You know, I downloaded it already. And I really promised myself that I will read and read it. It will now be our path, our new guideline to live in the new normal. A teaching that all of us must be able to put into our heart. Just like Saint Francis, who told us to have it as a way of life. As mentioned, everyone is connected. Woe to us, HR, that borrowing from the term of Bishop Bong, we do superficial things. but let us go deeper into the meaning. And I think the encyclical will help us appreciate it. Because that is our job, to be good Samaritans, to take care of our people, to enable our people. But it will really be difficult, but it will take a lot of introspection, a lot of reflection. I, for one, is just I'm starting to reflect on this in taking care to my helpers here in the house, to my adopted sons here, to my neighbors. I have actually a neighbor who is positive. So I'm reflecting, how will I react to the situation? We are all brothers and sisters. I am Jesse Francis, and my brother is the sun, my sister is the moon, the wind, the plants that I have, the pets under me now, all sleeping near my feet, the ducks, the birds, and the doves. We are all connected, and much more with the people that I am dealing with. How I treat my best friend, Obet, and family, it is authentic and true, with the value of kindness and love. Great insights. Teaching from Pope Francis, explained to us by Bishop Joel Baylon of the Diocese of Legazpi. This episode is dedicated to my nephew, Father E.L. Sibilia, and for my mom, Delia, and my sister, Dana, my brother, Jim. This is Jesse Francis Rebustillo, just marvelous